So, just for a little background, I already have a 2005 Polaris Scrambler 500. I ended up buying the second one from a gentleman on Facebook for $700. Has transmission issues. Told me it was leaking, but it does run. Same EX500 2005. All-wheel drive, of course. So, that needs to be adjusted, but so I was able to remove the transmission. Pretty straightforward on removing it. I did find one guy had a video, showed pretty much how to pull it off. Not a lot of tools required for this. I mean, pretty much just a good socket set. The only special tool I did have to buy was this clutch removal tool, which basically removes the primary from the actual engine. Didn't need an impact wrench or anything, just used my regular socket set. Clutch is here, second one is there with the belt, little bag with all the bolts and nuts that I remove. Like I said, here's the transmission now that it's been removed. To remove it, like I said, just a bunch of pretty much just bolts gets it out of there. There is a bracket that goes back here that you have to remove in order to pull that thing out of here. The front, there is, I don't know if you can see it, this U-joint here is attached to the actual, it looks like differential. There's a pin that goes through it, and all I used was a used Allen wrench and pushed that through, hammered it out. To remove this thing, I didn't actually pull the whole thing out. I just removed it, pushed it forward, and there was, when I was released the transmission, I was able to pull enough to separate it from the actual, and this one just slides in and out of that actual drive shaft for the all-wheel drive. So, like I said, didn't have to pull that out of there. Just able to get it off, and just make sure if you're not mechanically inclined, that you make sure you keep all your bolts and stuff where you know where they go back. Sometimes I do put things back where they belong. That way I'm not later on searching for those nuts and bolts. So that's how I pulled it off out of the quad. And like I said, now it's sitting here. And it was full. Well, actually it wasn't full because it was leaking, so I was going to have to remove it anyways, either buy a used one or rebuild this one. This one, I can tell just by that number there that they probably bought it at a salvage yard, or a wholesaler that sells parts, because normally that's how they label used parts. And then the fact that there was a lot of silicone along the edge. I know the factory stuff does not look like that. This one, you can also tell that this had already been at one point taken apart and rebuilt, and I'm not sure what the heck happened, but a lot of burnt stuff. The rear fairing has a hole on it also, so looks like it was ridden pretty hard. Like I said, once I got this all apart, did a visual inspection of the inside. I didn't see any cracks, which is good. Like I said, just a little bit of silicone debris. This was where I knew something was not right. So just to give you a little background, the quad does run, like I said. It does go into reverse, and it seems to drive okay in reverse. Just didn't want to go into forward. So when I took it apart, like I said, here's the gear selector. You can see move it up and down. So it is not the easiest of thing, but it does move this fork up and down. It does seem to engage in either forward or reverse, but once you start spinning this, you can kind of feel it binding a little bit. But the biggest thing I noticed was, like I said, how loose this chain is, and I'm assuming that being inside a transmission, it's not supposed to have this much play in it. So bearings, like I said, or actually like I'm saying, They seem okay. I didn't see anything bad with them. They're fairly tight. There's no wiggle in it, either one of them. or any of them that I can tell. So alright, so it looks like you just have to remove this little compression ring here to get it out of the way. I thought there was something back here, but there's not. So all I did was I tapped it right now with my mallet, and it moved. You can see now, you can see the lower chain. Everything seems to come out of its proper location. So I'm going to pull that off, and then like I said, hopefully this will come off, and then it'll let me remove pretty much all this other gears and gear and bearings, and take a look at everything that's inside. Alrighty, so remove this from this front piece right here, and then I gave it a couple whacks from the back side with my little rubber mallet. Popped that pretty much everything, as you can see. So here's that second chain that's inside the transmission. This one, like I said, had already pretty much fallen apart. So now I go ahead and just loosen this off, pull out the whole gear with bearings and stuff, so, and the chain. So give it a little inspection here, see how much wear and tear, which doesn't look like a lot. Like I said, I'm not seeing a whole lot of debris in there, so I'm hoping it's just replacing these two chains. We'll make it all looks like this is for the four-wheel drive. And this seems to be really tight for some reason, so wow. So this is what happens when you're trying to record this on a phone. Battery runs low, had to stop. So anyways, this is the transmission taken apart. I've done a visual of all this stuff, and from the other videos I've seen, I don't see a lot of wear and tear and damage. Only a little bit to these little teeth right here, which I'm assuming that's the forward. This is probably the reverse. Like I said, all the bearings, everything looks in really decent shape. Don't see any damage. So here's the chain that was really loose. But what I did see this is what's left over. Actually, this chain goes, or the sprocket goes to that other portion there. What I did was I took this and put it here. This is, of course, it goes to the four-wheel drive front differential. And the reason I did that is because when I try to turn this manually, I can't even turn it. So I put this on there just to see if I can spin it, and you can see it is like super tight. Like I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to be this way. So I'm thinking it's something to do with this. Let's see if I can even get it to move. Yeah. I mean, that's how tight it is. So I'm going to take this apart. Like I said, this goes to the front. This is a front drive shaft for the all-wheel drive system. And I'm wondering if there's something going on here with either bearing here, bearing in the front, that's causing everything to kind of bind up, and maybe that's what's causing that chain to get loose. So that'll be my continuation. Like I say, you can see all the debris. It is a little dirty in here from who knows what, silicone, and guess just debris or dirt, I don't know. I'm going to see if I can find these seals, which there's one there, there's one here, and of course there's one on the smaller portion of the transmission case. And these are the ones, of course, where the components are going out, or the splines are going out. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'll take it apart and then show you that. But everything looks, like I said, as far as the internal components, I don't see any damage. From all the videos that I've seen, everything looks normal. Okay, so like I was saying, I think my all-wheel drive shaft, or this connection here, is what's giving me the issue. You cannot even, let's see if I can spin this by hand. I mean, it takes quite a bit of force, and I'm assuming you shouldn't have to put that much pressure to get this joint to, you know, transfer power to the front differential. I'm still trying to figure out how the all-wheel drive system is, because it is an electronic switch. So I'm assuming that the power is always going to the front differential, and then once you hit the switch, the front differential locks something up there, kind of almost like a truck does, and then goes, you know, gives power to the front wheel. So I'm going to tear this apart, and hopefully this is clean all this stuff up. And like I said, I'm going to try to see if I can find, I don't know if these are pop in and out. I'm assuming they do. Replace these seals so that it's nice and tight. But I think I have an issue with this elbow here. That's, like I said, sending power to the all-wheel drive system. So no, it's not supposed to be so hard to move, and I'm hoping that's all it is.